All right, we're at 7:03. Let's get this show on the road. If you someone misses the beginning, this is being recorded. You can go back and hear this crucially important part, which is we're going to have a one-sided debate tonight. I hope that's what you all paid for, because that's what we're going to get. We've got Doug Basler in the house, but we do not have current reigning champion elections director Julie Wise in the house. She has reported that she has had a family emergency and is not able to make it, so the show must go on regardless. So I guess Doug gets to suck all the oxygen out of the room.
Woo-woo.
How unfortunate for you, right? So my name is Dylan Moore. I was initially asked to moderate the debate, which I was prepared to do until about an hour ago or whatever it was. And now I guess I'm going to be the interviewer, the main interviewer. This debate/interview has been and is being hosted by the International Leadership Foundation. And for the beginning here, I'm going to hand this over to Michaela, who is a member of the International Leadership Foundation, to do an introduction and to introduce the chair. So go for it, Michaela. Uh-oh. She muted herself, and now she doesn't have permission to unmute herself unless I give it to her. Okay. M comes after L. There you are. Asked to unmute.
Thank you, Dylan. Okay, as I will continue on, my name is Michaela Trin, and I'm one of the moderators for tonight's debate. It is my honor to introduce a remarkable individual who has been a guiding force within the International Leadership Foundation, as Dylan has mentioned, called Ms. Xiaoyan Wu. In her role as the chair, Ms. Wu has consistently been fostering civic awareness, promoting public service, and empowering young leaders. Her vision and passion have inspired many, including myself, to actively engage in the pursuit of knowledge and leadership for the future. Please join me in welcoming Ms. Wu. Thank you.
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. And thank you very much for joining us tonight. I'm Xiaoyan Wu, the chair of the International Leadership Foundation. And it's a true an honor to conduct tonight's meeting, be able to talk to Mr. Doug Basler for his vision and his idea of to enhance the election process. And we have the chance to talk to him because that is the goal of the International Leadership Foundation, is finding the true leader that to make the future a better place to live. And then I'm so glad to be here to conduct this, to have this meeting. And I want to thank you for the advisor, Zhu Xiaoping and Lin, for being the true advisor for the International Leadership Foundation and make this event happen. And thank you. And I'm so much looking forward to hear what Mr. Doug Basler have to say about it. Thank you very much for being here.
Excellent. With that, Xiaoyan, however I pronounce that name incorrectly. Okay. I've never taken a minute of Chinese. If you don't mind turning your video off so we can get Doug more on screen. We'll take it from there. Thank you very much. So we are just going to tackle this, like I said, a little less formally than I would with a debate, because there isn't the overarching requirement to be very strict and neutral with both parties. You know, making sure exactly each side gets a certain amount of time. So we're just going to open. I've got some questions that I have prepared ahead of time. Michaela's going to co-host with me and ask some questions of her own. And everybody is more than welcome to stick their own questions in the chat. And it's Michaela's job to pick the good ones out of it. So if you want your question asked, impress Michaela with that question. So, Doug, I'm glad you made it. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm excited. 1 week to go. I told my family I will sleep on the 8th of November.
Good. You got to get those bags in your eyes getting all the way.
Just whatever, you know.
The lower they go, the higher chance of victory, right?
Exactly. Vitamin B, trying to eat right. No sugar till next week. We're good.
Good. So the first question I have for you, we're going to start simple, and maybe you get a little bit more intense after that. So what kind of election system do you support for voting? Digital, paper, or a combination? And why do you support that system?
Great question. So I am in favor of paper ballots. I would like to see paper ballots hand counted at the precinct level. I would like people to have voter ID so that we can be sure that they are the registered voter. And I would like to have that. That's something that we've done for a couple of 100 years. It's easily auditable. It's easy to go back and check for errors, and it's more secure. It's more transparent. It's more publicly verified. So precincts are fairly small, generally speaking. They're from about 200 to 900 voters. So they're not onerous to count. It's what we used to do. I'm in favor of making Election Day a holiday so people can take the day off, go do their civic duty by voting, present their ID, and cast their ballot. And then, you would have obviously representatives from both parties doing that. I believe that, I have a lot of people who have contacted me and asked me about going back to paper ballots. So I don't know. I always have a trouble with that question because last time I checked, mail-in ballots were made out of paper. And so I'm kind of like, don't we have paper ballots now? So I don't know of any digital system currently that I would trust. I find that any system can be hacked. And we've already seen that there's some serious database problems at King County elections. And so I think we need to have a very auditable, very easy to solve problem trail, if you will.
Quick follow-up question to that. So one of the concerns that is often spouted is made in response to particularly the beginning things that you said about, for example, voter ID, is there are things that could suppress voter rights. What concern do you have, or what things are you thinking of to make sure that voters' rights aren't suppressed?
I don't know that I understand the question, but I believe that I believe that it's a racist statement to say that people can't get ID. It's very easy to get ID in Washington State. It's very easy to get ID for virtually anything. Here in Washington State, we give driver's licenses to non-citizens. All right. So it's not like you can't get ID. I also feel like the only people that don't want ID are doing it because they're intending to commit fraud.
Period. Good answer. Okay. Next, there's a growing concern. Growing, I guess, is a small understatement, but there's a growing concern of possible errors in our voting database that could cause registered voters to receive incorrect ballots. How will you guarantee registered voters are receiving the correct ballot?
Okay, so there are definitely problems with King County's voter database. I received a call from a city councilman nearby here over in the city of SeaTac. He was very concerned because people were getting letters from King County elections delivered to their homes. People that had lived in these homes literally since the 1940s were getting letters from King County elections that were not addressed to them, to names that they had no idea who they were, how they got that address. And then when they called King County elections down there in Renton, the person who answered the phone said, "Oh, we've been fielding calls like this all day. We're having problems with our database." And so this is something that's got to be absolutely taken care of. I'm not in favor of mail-in voting because of this. I don't believe that mail-in voting is the best way to secure chain of custody. I believe that your vote is extremely valuable. If you take the state budget, for example, and you divide it by the number of registered voters, your ballot on an even year election is worth about $4,800, about $4,800 for a state election. If you add a federal election into it, take the federal budget divide it by the total number of voters in America, added into the Washington state budget, your ballot is worth $7,200. Would you take $7,200 in cash and send it through the mail? I think most of us would say no. I think mail-in ballots is a mistake. It was forced on us by the state legislature. It's a county decision according to the Constitution and the law. And I think that we need to go back to hand-counted paper ballots with ID at the precinct level. And that we've done that for hundreds of years. It's been very good. We knew who was elected president in 1860. That was our first Republican president, Mr. Abraham Lincoln. We knew who won that night. Now we have mail-in balloting. We have computer systems, database problems, and we have a month-long election. The ballots go out 2 weeks before Election Day. They're counting ballots for 2 weeks after Election Day, and we still don't know who won. And so these are issues. So if they're solving a problem, they're solving it in the wrong way. So I think it's time to get back to the basics and fix these problems. Now, your database error with ballots, that's not too bad. That's not too hard to fix. You simply verify, double check the database that goes to the printer. Now, if the printer messes it up, the printer should be held liable. The printer receives a lot of money to print these ballots, and they should be printing them and sending them to the right people based on the data. And this is like, Dylan, it's like an Excel spreadsheet, okay? So this isn't like rocket science. This is an Excel spreadsheet. It's a registered voter. It's a name. It's an address. It's a zip code. And it's which precinct are you in? And that's the ballot, right? So these problems are solvable. And the problem that we're seeing with all of this database, craziness just shows that we got a problem over there, and it's time to bring in some new leadership. When you have that much going on, you have to ask some questions like, is it malice? Are they doing it on purpose? Is it incompetence? Are they incompetent? They can't deal with database problems? Or are they just arrogant and they just don't care? So the three answers are all bad. The answer to this is to support me, vote for me. I'll go in there. I'll take my corporate experience. I've got many years of corporate experience. We'll reorganize this thing, and we'll deal with these problems. And we won't duck and dodge and hide them, and we won't violate state law, and we won't do things that are underhanded. We'll just do it above board. And winners and losers happen in all elections. That's to be expected. But some of this technology stuff, it's easily so. I mean, this is Seattle. This is Bellevue. This is technology land. I mean, we should not be having database problems. I think we have people around here that know how to work computers.
Absolutely. So I want to ask another question before I flip it over here to Michaela to ask a question. So of the things you described, what powers does the King County Elections Director have directly or indirectly to achieve these things? And I guess even more specifically, which powers do you not have? What powers does the auditor have? What powers does the Secretary of State have? Where people point at you and say, hey, I want you to do this or I want you to do that. And you go, that's literally not my job description.
Yeah, that's a really good question. The King County Elections Director cannot violate state law. Now, my opponent did violate state law just this last August and July during the primary when she did a super secret server swap, the main server for the entire tabulation system. She did it without observers. She did it with no notice to the political parties. The cameras didn't work in the server room. There was no emergency LNA, that's a logic and accuracy test as required by state law. And there was no apologies. And a lot of ducking and dodging and a lot of, well, we didn't need to, or we did it, or whatever. At a bare minimum, as elections director, I could follow the law. We could just follow the rules. Let's just do that for a start. As far as some of these other things, my opinions, of having, hand counted paper ballots with ID at the precinct level. That's not going to be within my purview as King County Elections Director. That's done by the law, right? That's done by that.
Secretary of State, legislature level, right?
Yeah, even the Secretary of State has no say-so over that. They do what the legislature says. However, we have influence. My opponent, Julie Wise, actually went down to the legislature in the last session earlier this year and lobbied to have more of King County's, of all election information exempted from public disclosure. Okay, so we're meeting people that have questions. We're saying, no, we need to cover more. We need to hide more. And so I would have the ability, obviously, to disclose what I wanted to about the election system, and I would do that. I want people to be confident. In a democracy, in a republic like this, the vote is everything. If we don't have our vote, we have no say in our government, and we need to know. I heard a friend of mine say once, they tell us that we need to trust the system. But you know what, Dylan? We shouldn't have to trust the system. We should know that the system is fair, that it's transparent, that it's secure, that it's publicly verified. And so as King County Elections Director, I will do that. The other things are simply going to be having the ability to clean the voter rolls. We've identified over 39,000 non-U.S. citizens on King County voter rolls. We did that by matching it back against exemptions for jury duty based on citizenship. And yet they remain on the voter rolls. And that is a problem because those people could accidentally vote thinking that they were okay to vote. It could jeopardize their citizenship. It could jeopardize their path to citizenship. It's a violation of law. It could put them in legal jeopardy. So these are things that we can do as election directors.
And how simple would it be for you to do something like that? As if you say, okay, we've identified that these are 39,000 people who are, not allowed to vote. You just hit the delete key. Or is it more complicated than that?
No, and we wouldn't want to do it that way because sometimes mistakes happen, right? Mm-hmm. Oh, wait a minute. I did that because I wanted to get out of jury duty, but I'm actually a citizen, okay? That type of thing. So there's a process of contacting people, attempting to contact people, people that have moved, people that are deceased, people that are non-citizens, these types of things. There is a process to remove them, and we certainly don't want to accidentally remove somebody who has the legal right to vote in the election. We want every legal voter to vote and their vote to be counted and to be counted exactly as they intended. So there is a process involved, and I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but I think it's worth it. It's worth working at it and doing it. Currently, there is no effort on the part of my opponent, the current King County Elections Director, to clean the voter rolls up. There's no will to do it. There's no desire to do it. I want to do it because I think we all win if we have clean and tidy voter rolls.
Heck yeah. Michaela, I'm going to throw one over to you. Do you have a question yourself, or is this a listener question, audience question?
I think this is an audience question. I think I need to go back to give her the credits. So according to Samantha, her question was, what is the difference between returning my ballot in the mail or to a drop box?
Well, is it death by hanging or death by stabbing? I don't know. Again, I think that chain of custody, I would prefer to be able to hand it to a precinct worker, and I know my ballot is being delivered on a chain of custody way. I would say the drop boxes are more secure because at least the drop box has a secure system, estimated number of ballots. They put it in secure pouches and things like that. We honestly really don't even know what the post office is doing. We've seen pictures of mountains of ballots that were returned because the person was not at the right address or they're improperly addressed. We've seen ballots that came in late. We've got a lot of problems with the mail-in system. The mail-in system is flawed. So I would lean toward using the drop box, and if even possible, I would say the drop box at King County Elections on Grady Way in Renton, because it's right there. If you want to make sure. Now, there is an online way that you can verify that your ballot was received. But there's even problems with that now, because anybody can go on to VoteWa, or they can go on to the King County Elections thing. If you have your name, your address, and the birth date, you can log in. So it's an insecure system. Someone else can download your ballot. And if they download your ballot, the ballot you were mailed is now invalid. And so they could vote your ballot, and you don't know if your ballot was voted or if somebody downloaded your ballot. So that's another rabbit trail. But again, just the problems with security and chain of custody right now. There's a lot of problems.
Doug, in 2003, the genome was mapped. And recently, apparently, according to experts, right, the human mind was mapped using artificial intelligence. With advancements in AI technology and its ability to understand our thoughts and motives, will there even be a need for us to vote in the future?
Because they'll just know. AI will just know, hey, look, we all want to be socialists now. Hey, we'd all love to be slaves. Yeah, I don't think so. Computers don't speak for me. I speak for me.
That was a quick answer. I was expecting I was expecting something.
What do you expect? I mean, what do you expect? I mean,
yeah.
You know,
Well,
there was a okay. So this came out in just a little while ago. There was an attorney who filed a brief with the court. He was in a hurry. He had AI help him. The AI wrote this amazing brief citing all these cases and did a great job putting it together. And the judge granted the motion. Turned out none of the cases were real. The computer had made up every case. And I'm telling you, the judge was very upset about that. But it looked good. And so, yeah, I don't, I'm not like thinking iRobot, Will Smith or anything, but, I don't know that we want AI doing that. I think that we need to stand up and have our vote, give our vote, let it be counted.
Well, that court situation actually begs another question. So we've got this rise of deep fakes, right? Yep. I mean, I guess in the recording of this, as far as anyone knows, this was all just fake based on videos that were compiled from us in the past, right? We got the rise of deep fakes. We got the rise of artificial intelligence. Obviously, I mean, you just expressed a concern. It was in courtroom as opposed to the election system. But what concerns do you have of AIs and deepfakes affecting or getting involved into the election system, and what could you see yourself doing to prevent that from happening?
Well, great question, Dylan. And I think I may have answered it before, but I'm in favor of paper ballots with ID hand counted at the precinct level. So it's tough to deepfake a human being that's there smiling with his or her ID and filling out a ballot with a pen in a voting booth and turning it into the machine, turning it into the workers and being scanned on the site and then hand counted. So that's, ultimately how you're going to have to do it. Now, when we start making very human robots, that might be a problem. Okay. So we might have to do DNA or something at that point, but thankfully we're not there yet.
Yes. Michaela, you got another one ready?
Yeah, I do actually. I need to go back to find out who posted it. So by Karen, how do you make sure the King County election director election is fair and legit with Julie Wise overseeing it?
Well, yeah, not much I can do there. There are a lot of people that think an election director should recuse themselves during these type of events. Yeah, that's a problem. I don't have
Let
an
me
answer.
ask the follow-up question that person had, that Karen had. How can everybody best help you with it?
Well, one of the big problems with questioning the election system, which is our right to do as Americans, we should never take the government's word for anything. Now, I was raised in the 60s and 70s and, fight the power and all that kind of stuff. So I was kind of raised to be skeptical of the government, and rightly so. And that was one of the reasons why we have a strong First Amendment that protects the news industry, right? Because the news industry was to hold the government accountable. So now when we have, these type of problems, and then it's being trumpeted out there, people tend to get, well, I'm not going to vote because my vote doesn't count, or they start to become discouraged. And that actually plays into the hands of the cheaters, because now they don't have to cheat you. They already won because you don't vote. So the way to win, the way to end this is now, before they have complete control or whatever, or turn this thing over to AI or however it's done, we need you to vote. If you get a ballot, vote for me, vote for my opponent, but vote and be heard. And that's how you do it. Because even if they can't cheat that much. Cheating is, it's always been on the fringes, always been on the edges, and it's been something that's frankly been going on. I mean, there was a big blow up during the Civil War in the 1864 election. They had a ballot, basically counterfeiting thing going on in New York City, and they busted it and fixed it. So it's, this idea that we've had these great secure elections forever is it's a myth. There's always been cheating. There's always been people who will try to cheat. I mean, everything depends on this. The government controls everything in our life, our law and order, our prices, our money, all this stuff. So it super matters. And so the way to do that is to vote. And the reason it's so important to vote this year is because this is low turnout. People aren't looking at King County and water districts and school boards. They think, they want to look at, Biden versus Trump or something. They want to look at the big stuff. These small elections, your vote literally is 400% more powerful because it's about a 25 to 30% turnout. So your vote in this election is like 4 votes in power, in weight, because so many people are not voting. And so if you really want to help out, if you really want to see things get better, vote. Get your neighbors to vote. Get your family to vote. Get everybody to vote. Let's do it. Let's be heard.
Absolutely. And then there's another listener question here, that gets a little more technical. So we've got, this is from, what's the name? Erica. So this is referring specifically to RCW 29A.40.101, which is the ballots by mail. And so Erica's question, and Erica, I apologize, I'm going to rephrase this to get it, I think, to get to the heart of the matter a little bit more. So, as you mentioned at the beginning, you're not the state legislature, and you're not the governor that signs bills into law or vetoes them. So you got to work around the law, and the law specifically says this is the one that's ballots by mail. How would you, in the position of elections director, utilize your influence to adjust bad laws like this?
Right. Well, when we identify problems, we identify loopholes in the system, we don't want to cover them up. So former Secretary of State Kim Wyman testified about, we got to cover all this stuff up because we don't want to expose vulnerabilities in the system. That's exactly the opposite of what needs to happen. We need to look at the vulnerabilities in the system and then testify to the legislature about it. The problem with these things. So I'm not saying that we should not have any absentee ballots. Absentee ballots need to happen. People overseas, our military, foreign citizens, foreign people that are traveling for business or whatever. And so if you have a legitimate reason for needing a mail-in ballot, then I'm all in favor of that. I'm not against an absentee ballot for people that need it. There is a problem with UOCAVA, which allows our foreign military to vote by email and by fax. I have serious problems with voter anonymity. These things come in by email and fax. That ballot is being looked at by whoever receives that. During my last election in 2022, when I was running for the U.S. Congress, I did a small recount, and there was a pile of ballots that had orange cover sheets on them. They were UOCAVA ballots, these overseas expatriate ballots that had come in, and they said, "Oh, that's military." And one of the other workers said, "Well, they're not all military, but it's overseas people." So I was a major party candidate. There was about 30 of them, and I didn't receive a single vote from those, not one. So again, real problems with this kind of overseas ballots thing. So we need to tighten that process up and have a way, first of all, protect their anonymity of their vote, and also to be sure that that is a legal vote, that is a vote that is supposed to be cast and is being cast in accordance with all of our state and county laws and regulations.
Great. Michaela, what do you got next?
So going back to the question where we asked you how can we help you best in the coming week, I would like to group that with a less burdening question by Joanne. Is it better to vote early or last minute in the drop box?
Well, I believe we should have vote at the precinct on election day with ID. So,
yeah, but I think the question is more
I know what you're saying. I'm just repeating myself for the sake of common relief here. But I don't. There's people that say, well, if you wait to vote till the last day, I see they have some merit to that, because if there is cheating going on and they're able to see how the election's going, and if you vote early, then they can manufacture, counterfeit ballots to offset, to get the desired result. I think you should vote when it's convenient for you. I usually wait till the last day, not because I'm worried about election security, but just because I usually wait till the last day.
Because that's just your personality.
It's just, I forget. No, I just, I'm a procrastinator. I like to put it off. But I also like to think, what if something comes out? What if there's some other information? For example, Hunter's laptop, right? There was a lot of people that voted early that wish they could have changed their vote because they thought the Hunter Biden laptop was a big deal or whatever. And I'm just using that as the most general example, but I like to kind of wait and see in case, there's an October surprise or something. And it's election day, and I like to vote on election day. So practice what I preach.
Should be a holiday, right?
Yeah. Give me the day off.
Yep.
Let me go vote and then go to the lake or whatever.
There you go. When I ask this question, I'm choosing this language very specifically. All right. How do you plan on combating misinformation regarding the election system?
Okay, repeat the question.
How do you plan on combating misinformation that's around regarding the election system?
Misinformation.
Misinformation.
Okay. That word gets thrown around a lot. Misinformation, disinformation as well. Those are words I get thrown around. And what those are attacks on our First Amendment right of freedom of speech. People have opinions. People have information. There is always data. Could you imagine going to a court of law? Let's say you had a speeding ticket and they had got you on a speeding ticket camera, right? Going by a school zone or something. And you said, I wasn't driving the car. That I loaned my friend the car, or my child was driving the car or something. And the prosecuting attorney says, "Objection, Your Honor, that's misinformation." Right? Who decides what's true and what isn't. Winston Churchill famously said, "The truth is incontrovertible. Malice may malign it, ignorance may deride it, but in the end, there it is." And I believe that misinformation and disinformation are two words they're using to shut you up, to shut up people that don't agree with them. And so, I think everybody gets to say what they want to say. Let's get the conversation going. Let's have a conversation. Let's respect each other. We used to say, "I may disagree with you, but I'll fight to the death to protect your right to say it." Right? That's what we used to say. Now it's like, "Oh, you're saying misinformation. You shouldn't be allowed to talk. We need to shut you up. We need to shut you down. We need to cancel you." It's so un-American. Dylan, it's really un-American. And I disagree with a lot of people, but we don't have to be disagreeable. We can still like them. We can still say, "I don't think that's true," or whatever. But we should be allowed to have all the facts and make up our own mind. That's what a free society is about.
Well said. Michaela?
All right. So another one about the process of the election by Brock, I think. What will you do about the process of the signature verification?
Okay, signature verification is another problem, okay? I've literally seen people doing signature verification with their eyes like 2 inches from the computer. And we asked them, "Is there an eye check for people doing?" "Oh, no, we don't require any eye checks." So signature verification can be extremely subjective. Our signatures do change over time. My assistant at the office today was saying, "I think my signature's different now, more shaky as I've gotten older," and things like that. So that is a problem. Signature verification is a problem. Now, at least it's something. At least we're trying to get something on there. And if a signature is bad or they perceive it as not being right, my daughter got a notice that her ballot was rejected because the signature didn't appear to match. And she had the ability to rectify that situation, to say, "No, that is me, and here, blah, blah, blah." So signature verification is another disaster. Again, I believe we should have hand-counted paper ballots with ID at the precinct level. Then you just know. I mean, I used to go and vote. I did it for many years. I would go. They would say, "Can we see your license?" They would look at it. They'd look at me, and they go and sign the book. "Okay, here's your ballot. Go in the booth and vote." Right? It wasn't no big deal. And again, I think this idea that people can't get ID, I think that's a racist comment. I think that belittles people, like, "Oh, I need you. I can't get ID." We have ID requirements for all kinds of things. You have to have ID to get a tattoo. You have to have ID to buy alcohol or a gun. You have to have ID for all kinds of things, cigarettes, vaping, all this different stuff. And yet that doesn't seem to bother anybody. What's more important, a pack of smokes or a $7,200 value ballot? If I'm going to cash a check, they ask me for ID, right? And usually, if I put my credit card,
they're saying the same thing. I can't even make it a deposit at a bank without my ID.
Yeah, and this is more valuable than most of our paychecks. That's a bigger paycheck than I get every 2 weeks.
Next question. So we're entering a phase in time where most younger voters digest the entirety of their media digitally. And I mean, the idea of somebody reading a newspaper my age or younger is, I mean, laughable doesn't even describe it correctly, because we'd just be like, it never even occurred to me to do something like that. Would you be against setting up? So I mean, we get our voter pamphlets, right? A digital voter pamphlet, so it's more accessible, so that the election information for candidates for all elections is more accessible, particularly to younger voters.
Yeah, there currently are digital voter pamphlets available in King County. So you can get everything that's in that paper one that they mail out is available online. And actually, the online one has my picture in color. So it's actually better because I'm a colorful person. No, I'm kidding, of course. There's also
the same shade I do.
There's also digital. My daughter says, "You're pink."
Yeah.
Okay, I guess I'm the pink guy. But in Seattle, we did a video voters pamphlet. So we actually went in and had a 2-minute statement and things like that. So that stuff is available. I guess what I would say, Dylan, is that we need to more publicize the availability of that. There are other technologies besides snail mail to get voter information out to the voters. I do get emails from King County elections. I had to opt in for that a couple of years ago, but they do, they do send me emails and things like that. So, it would be nice. I think maybe one of my jobs as King County election director would be to make sure that we're getting that information out on TikTok, that we're getting that information out on Instagram and, other platforms. Like, hey, if you're a voter, you can click here, or go to our online voter pamphlet or whatever, learn more about the candidates, learn more about the issues, things like that. I do believe that the voter pamphlet system is one of the best systems right now, because it is one of the ways that people can find out about me or find out about my opponent and things like that. And I believe people should, be informed. If you're going to vote, man, figure out what's going on and vote smart.
Absolutely. Michaela, keep going.
Okay, so this is a personal question. I have a question about. Why did you call the ability not to get an identification card racist?
I think it's a racist comment that that is usually said by people who we need to not have ID because some of these poor,
minorities,
others can't get IDs and they're being disenfranchised. And that's just ridiculous. Everybody can get an ID. It's not a problem. There is no, and so I believe it's a racist statement to say that they are calling minorities less than smart or less than whatever. I believe everybody, can get assistance. Everybody has everybody can get an ID. It's no problem.
I've got another AI question. So this is I think this is a little bit more penetrating. So I learned recently that there's a company in Hong Kong called Deep Venture Capital, and it literally has a legal voting member, which is an AI. His name is Vital, I believe.
On the board.
On the board. So you've heard of it too. Want to think of how I'm going to phrase this question. What do you see as a concern? I mean, both in the scope of this election, but in the concept of elections in general. Does something like this concern you in terms of giving? I mean, I know this is like a corporate board as opposed to voting in elections, but does the presence of an AI on a corporate board somewhere voting give you a long-term concern for what might be pushed in the election system?
Yeah, of course, that's concerning. I think that AI, AI it's a machine. Okay, it's code, and anybody can code things the way they want. They could code things leaning right. They could code things leaning left. They could code personalities into this stuff, and as like you were saying with the deep fake and all this, what's going to keep AI from registering to vote? We do online voter registration. We don't require ID. We require the last 4 digits of social security number. We require your birthday, your address. So what if AI just all of a sudden decided to register 100,000 voters, that were all AI voters, right? That could be a real problem. Again, that problem is solved simply by my previous statements, in person with ID.
Absolutely. Michaela, what you got?
Got a new question. Samantha wants you to mention a statement about the Secretary of State's new biweekly report about misinformation.
Yeah, that just recently came to my attention. I actually read one that was put out, I think, just a day or so ago, and at the end, so basically, AI is scraping all the major social media sites, looking for keywords, looking for people that are talking about elections, and then it says this. So many people shared it. So many people interacted with it. They have this many followers. They shared it on their site. All these different things. At the end, it has conclusions, and the one that I read said it could lead people to feel that they can't trust election system. And then it said, and it could lead people to demand election integrity reform. And I thought, well, that's pretty good. I kind of actually like this one because that is what we want. It's not that we believe that there's real big cheating and that type of stuff going on. We know something's going on, and we just believe that as citizens of Washington State, of King County, that those elections are our elections. Those elections do not belong to the government or to the state. They belong to us. And we should know that they're secure, that they're transparent, and that they're publicly verified. We should know this. And so, this obviously, they're surveilling us. That should be illegal, right? That should be absolutely illegal. Government surveillance, that's like the secret police. That's like the scariest stuff ever. That's like the Soviet Union. That's like communist China, right? They're surveilling you so that they can, what Dylan talked about before, misinformation. They can call anything, right? So, I think the biggest problem right now with King County elections is when we have election questions, rather than dealing with the questions, they resort to name calling and they call you conspiracy theories, and they call you election deniers, and they call you names, but they don't answer the questions as if they can just it's classic Saul Alinsky. It's look at the red herring over here. Don't listen to Doug Basler's questions. Don't listen to these people that are having doubts about the system. Just answer the questions. You work for us. We don't work for you. This is our government. It's we the people. This is our government. They work for us. And this election, for me as King County Elections Director, is your opportunity to take back control of your elections. They're your elections. You live here. You should know. I will work to make sure that your election is transparent, secure, and publicly verified. And when there's weaknesses in the system, I'm not going to hide it. I'm going to say the system is weak here and here and here, and we'll come up with solutions and fix it. Because that's what corporate people do. That's what business people do. And that's what I am. I'm not going to have a huge security problem at my company and not deal with it.
Absolutely. What's the most important thing on your mind that you didn't get asked this evening?
Okay, I'm very concerned. I mentioned the server swap. The whole reason that we found out that they swapped the server in the middle of the primary on or about July 28th, this last summer, was because we had people like you, Dylan, people like you, Michaela, as election observers. And so this idea that election observing is hard, yes, it's hard. But because someone was there, we were able to find out about this problem. And now there's a huge scandal going on, and Julie Wise is right in the middle of this scandal because they're not supposed to do that. We've also got computer logs. So their computer logs, even though they're heavily redacted, we're seeing some very disturbing trends. In 2022, there were a large amount of ballots that were processed outside of business hours. So we had ballots, the business hours of King County elections are 8:30 a.m. until 4:30 p.m. They started counting ballots at 7 a.m. and oftentimes counted the ballots past midnight. What happens is the observers, thinking business is over, they go home at 4:30. They don't show up at 7. They show up at 8:30. So why are they doing all this work with no notice and no observers? We also found that they were adjudicating a large number of ballots. Now, an adjudicated ballot is a ballot where the machine has an error, can't read it or something. So it pulls it out and a human being looks at it and makes a decision. Yes, this person voted for Jay Inslee. This person voted for Lauren Culp, whatever is on the ballot. There's the two people agree. Yes, I see the mark. They voted for Jay Inslee. It's now registered. It's counted and the adjudicated ballot is counted. In 2022, we had over 70,000 ballots adjudicated. Okay, so obviously we got a problem with these machines because 70,000 ballots is a lot of ballots.
Quick question, are these ballots that also include write-ins? Like if I write in somebody, is that an automatic adjudication because the ballot reader doesn't know what to do? Or does that not include the write-ins, the 70,000?
So what the ballot would do, okay, so write-ins is handled a little differently. Good question, Dylan. So when you write somebody in, you check the box that's write-in. The machine can count that. It simply counts it as a write-in. If the write-in was significant enough to affect the outcome of the election, in other words, the write-in won, then they would pull those ballots and adjudicate them at that time. But initially, it's just going to say it's write-in. So if you ever look at the election results that come out on election day, it'll say candidate A gets X, candidate B gets Y, and write-in gets the other one. So all those, the machine just takes it and puts it all in a pool as this was write-in. So good question.
So that 70,000 that you said is not the write-ins.
No, this is ballots the machine could not read. Now, out of those 70,000 ballots, almost 21% of those were adjudicated outside of business hours. 14,523 ballots adjudicated like at midnight. Like, really? Okay, with no observers, nobody's in there. Everybody thinks King County elections closed, but they're in there burning the midnight oil, adjudicating ballots. What's even more disturbing is over 200,000 ballots were deleted and rescanned. 49% of those, so almost 100,000 ballots were deleted and rescanned with no observers present outside of business hours. Now, this could all be completely innocent. We're working OT. We got a lot of ballots and stuff like that. But what if
tell us? What
if it's a problem?
Hey, observers, we're working late if you want to keep staying here. Yes.
Dylan, that's exactly what I'm saying. We're going to be working late tonight. If people don't want to show up or we don't get enough people signing up, then that's on us. But they should at least tell us. And so now we've discovered it. And again, well, you guys are just conspiracy theorists, election. They just call you names. Okay. This is something that, as your election director, I will remedy. Nobody's working late unless there's observers, period. Yeah. Hey, we got to work late. There's a lot of ballots. It's a big election. 2022 is a midterm, right? It's not, you think working late in 22, guess what? Next year's a presidential year. There's going to be a high voter turnout, right? So yeah, you might have to burn the midnight oil. Just let us know, right? And then why? They're not answering the question. Why did you delete 828 batches? Why did you delete 200,000 ballots and rescan them, right? If this voting system is so great, why are you having to rescan 20% of the votes? Right?
It's a feature, not a bug, Doug.
Yeah. So I'm just saying. So those are concerning to me. I will work to rectify that. I want observers. I want people to look. I want people to get trained. If there's a problem with the computer system, let's just be, hey, we have a problem with the computer system. We're going to do an emergency logic and accuracy test. Let's just do it. And I'm not going to call people names. I respect you way too much to call you a name, Dylan. Michaela, I never call you a name. You're a wonderful person. You deserve respect. If you have questions, why don't we answer the questions? And so this is what I bring to it. Is it a big job? Yeah. Is it going to be a lot of work? Yes. Am I willing to do the work? Absolutely. I'm willing to put in the hours. I'm willing to work hard. I'm willing to make sure that you're confident that your vote is transparent, secure, and publicly verified. It's exactly the way you intended it to be. I want to fix chain of custody. I want to clean up our voter rolls, and I want to bring back trust in the system because people know that the elections are good.
Excellent. Well said, Doug. So we're going to call it at that. Everybody in the chat can vote whether or not Doug won that debate. In case somebody came in late and hadn't figured it out already, just to reiterate, Julie Wise, King County Elections Director, had a family emergency today and was unable to make the debate. You can make of that what you will. But I will give Julie the benefit of the doubt, and I personally am more than happy to do an interview or maybe even a debate. I mean, we only got, a week left?
1 week from tomorrow, it's over.
Week from tomorrow, so I mean, I'll do it tomorrow if she wants to do it tomorrow. But, yes, thanks, Doug, for taking the time to come on. I hope people were able to take something from this. We do have it recorded. We'll get it up as soon as we can so it can be shared around. And I appreciate everybody from coming on.